Welcome back, guys. Get comfortable, have a seat as I enjoy my coffee and go over a couple of watch related topics that we need to discuss. We're going to go over 4 to 5 topics that I think we're going to enjoy. This video is for my true supporters. Those of you guys who don't only like the street interviews, but you like to sit down and have watch related topics discussed. But before we get into it, let me go over 2 announcements. The first one is the link to my merch store is in the description. In all my videos, actually. The link is in the description, so go check them out and see what you guys like. And 2 is that we need to get the likes up in my videos. Let's get the average likes to around 1,000 because that helps get the videos out to more people. So let's do that, guys. Hit the subscribe button, turn your notification on, and let's get into today's video. So for my first point, it's gonna help you guys understand the mindset that I go into interviewing some of the people, especially in design district. And it's almost like there's different categories that I break people down as the interview goes along or the conversation we have prior to the camera turning on. And it's that there's people that I've noticed are watch collectors, there's passion watch collectors, and then there's watch enthusiasts. And let me break down the difference. A collector is someone that may have a Rolex on their wrist, an AP on their wrist, but they don't know the reference number to the watch that they have on their wrist or the references to the watches in their entire collection. They just know Rolex, AP, or Rolex Submariner, and that's as far as it goes. That's the watch collector to me. A passion watch collector is someone that it goes a little bit deeper. That person may know, sure, the reference to the watch on their wrist, but it's more so the reason behind the timepiece on their wrist or the watches in their collection. There's more reasoning and stories behind their watches. It's almost like they bought the watch, for example, to mark a milestone, to mark an achievement. These are the people that I would put into the passion watch collector. And the next one is the watch enthusiast. This person is the person that it goes deep. That's like the watch nerd. I would put myself in that category. That's the person that buys the watch, research the watch that they own and the watches outside of the watches in their collection. For example, like for myself, I would watch some YouTube videos. I'll hear a watch brand that I've never heard of before or a model, and I'll do some digging. Even though I don't plan on buying the watch, I would still do some homework, do some research to understand the background, the history, the movement, the caliber, why this watch, what's the functionality, why this watch was designed, and things of that nature. And that's the person that I would put in the watch enthusiast category. Comment down below and let me know what category are you guys in. And of course, you could have a watch enthusiast that's a passion collector. It kind of goes together to a degree. There's different ratios to it. For myself, I would say I'm more of a watch enthusiast than a collector because the most watches, the most amount of watches I've had at one time was like 5 or 6. It was a combination of different Rolexes, Omegas. I had a Wachman, a couple of different watches, but they all had a story behind them. So comment down below. Let me know what category you think you fall in. Now for my second point. It's a comment that I frequently see in my videos, and it's that you guys are seeing so many Rolex, Cartier, especially in the design district. And that's just how it's gonna be. That's really how it's gonna be in most major cities. And it's because most people are watch collectors, as my prior point. So yes, guys, we're gonna see a lot of Rolexes in my interviews, but overlook that to a degree and try to focus on the person, their story, their journey, because I believe all of us go through a journey, whether we're at the beginning stage, the midpoint, or the later stage in our collecting journey. So it's easy to identify someone that's in the beginning stage. They don't know the reference of the watch on their wrist. All they have is Rolexes in their collection. All they have is hype pieces in their collection. And that's okay. I judge them, but it's okay. In these interviews where I come across people like that, you'll hear me mention other brands. I'll say, there's Omega out there, there's Breitling, there's IWC, there's other brands. So I try my best to kind of steer them or put some seeds in their mind of other brands that they could look at. Now, I want to touch on 2 interviews that really stood out to me recently. I have great memory, but there are collectors out there, people that I've met in the streets, that stand out more than others. And yes, they were wearing Rolex watches on their wrists. And the first person I want to highlight is Jennifer from episode 121. That's a recent video. Well, tell me, what's the story behind this watch?
So my whole life, I've always wanted a Rolex. And we work really, really hard in our business. And I always went to my dad and I said, we're in a family business. And I said to my dad, my next sale, I'm going to go out and buy a Rolex. And he used to say to me, you're crazy. You don't have to spend money on a Rolex. You can just wear, a Timex. He said, they take a licking and keep on ticking. And I said, oh, Dad, we work so hard that we really should enjoy the things that, bring us happiness. And I think a really nice watch is a status symbol, more so than jewelry, more so than clothes, more so than shoes. And he passed away in 2020 before I could get a Rolex. And on my birthday, the following year, my mother surprised me with the watch and said, this is because you worked so hard and you never got the Rolex. Enjoy it. And his name is engraved in the back.
And as you guys just saw, the story behind her watch is deeper and has more meaning than the actual tangible watch. After I interviewed with Jennifer, I was like, wow, every time she looks at this watch, she's gonna think of her dad. She even had, I think, his name or something relating to him engraved on the case back. When it comes to engravings on timepieces, people don't do that much anymore. I think that was more so in the past. I think that's something that really do need to come back, where people start engraving the case back of their watches to add some more, meaning to the watch. The next person I want to highlight is Mark from episode 107. Story behind your watch.
My dad helped me find this one back in 1988. I just started working as a dive instructor, and I was headed to the Caribbean. And I'd been looking at him a long time, and he, through a associate he worked with, got me one out of Sweden for a very advantageous price. And wore it ever since, every day. And it kind of means a lot to me because it was like the one big thing my dad helped me get before he died. So it has a lot of a sentimental attachment. And I wore it for like 30 plus years without really ever taking it off.
That's another person that his watch was connected, a Rolex Mariner, that was connected to his dad. It was the last thing that his dad helped him purchase. And things like that stays in my mind. Whenever somebody talks about my interviews, it's people like these that stand out. Sure, I come across people that's wearing RMs, APs, Pateks, but it's the person that's wearing a Rolex, which is considered lower than a Patek or AP. But I remember that person's watch, I remember that person's story. So this is a good example that what I'm trying to make is that even though, yes, these people are wearing Rolex, and in Jennifer's case, that was her first and only watch, a Rolex, she stands out. Now for my third point, and it's just to help you guys understand my prior point, the second point, where I understand people to the point where I don't judge them harshly, is because I was there. I was there for the reasoning similar to most of them, where I purchased my first luxury high-end watch being a Rolex. But for me, my first Rolex had a story behind it. It was a milestone piece. And I think that's the case with most people. Once it comes to the point where they start earning a certain amount of money, Rolex is the first thing that comes to mind. And yes, it's always to a degree attached to status and prestige and want to prove to the world that you accomplished something. As much as we appreciate timepieces for ourselves, I think a lot of us use our watches as a form of expression to other people. My fourth point has to do with watch dealers and watchmakers. And it's something where I'm just like you guys, where I consume some content on YouTube and I see watch dealers interacting with consumers and giving, let's say, a buyer their point of view And in most cases, they're steering the consumer into the direction of hype watches and buying this Rolex. And oh, you have a Rolex? Okay, now go to AP. And that's pretty much the storyline of these watch dealers. And the spotlight is heavily put on watch dealers and their interactions, especially on YouTube. But I believe that watchmakers, independent watchmakers, really do need more spotlight put on them. They really do need more respect, because I think watchmakers should be at the pinnacle. Let's give, for example, we all own cars, right? So if you really wanted information, you really wanted guidance, you'll go to an independent mechanic, like a BMW specialist. You're not gonna go to the car dealer to get certain type of information, because the car dealer is in it for the business, in it for a quick buck, for the commission. The mechanic, he knows how to take the car apart, he knows how to put it back together. The car dealer don't know anything like that. So this is a point I always wanted to make, and I think watchmakers out there do need some spotlight put on them. And if you need advice, a watchmaker is the person to really go to. So I always encourage people to, in your local, city, town, find a watchmaker, become close. You don't have to be friends, but become close with that person, especially if you're passionate about watches and collecting. For me, my watchmaker is all the way in Greenwich, Connecticut, and I'm here in Miami. And the reason is because of the relationship that we developed and how it started. And I'm just gonna make it short, but it was a situation where one of my timepieces wasn't running correctly, or wasn't running at all. Something was wrong with it. And it was first time I walked into his shop. I searched on Google places to, watchmakers, and I randomly just went to his spot. Walked in there, and immediately greeting, customer service on point. He's transparent. He opened the watch in front of me. He didn't say, "Oh, leave it, I'll just inspect it and come up with something." No, opened it in front of me, put his little loop on, looked at it, and was like, "Hey, that's your problem." He was like, "Let me just check it out." Fixed it. It took 5 minutes or less. Put the watch back, put it on the time graph, boom, go about your way. He didn't charge me. He didn't say anything like, "Oh, leave it, it might need a whole overhaul," anything like that, where someone may do that. Just like, for example, with the cars, you might go to a mechanic and they'll try to rip you off. No, you got to find a loyal mechanic. Same with a loyal watchmaker. And on many occasions, I did the same thing with this watchmaker. I would have a problem with my watch, take it in, he'll open it up, he'll see something wrong. Like, for example, one time there was a gasket was missing on one of my timepieces. He's like, "Hey, you don't have a gasket, right?" Took one out the drawer, put it in, boom, go about your day, have fun. And that made me respect this person because of how transparent he was, how honest he was. He wasn't money hungry. And that was the day that after a couple of times going, I decided, you know what, whenever I need real service done, like a full overhaul, this is where I'm going to take my watch. Even if I'm in Miami, I'll ship it to him, have it serviced, ship it back, or I'll just fly out there for some other reason, drop it off, things like that. But my point is, watchmakers need respect. If you need help, if you need information, go to a watchmaker. If you need advice, go to a watchmaker. They're the ones that know these watches inside out. They know the strong points, they know the weak points on these watches. Going to a dealer, a watch dealer, it's just surface level. They're just gonna say, this is gonna go up in value, it's gonna hold this value, things like that. And they just want to make a commission. They want to make their 10%, even more sometimes. For my last points, I'm gonna wrap them up into one. And I have to say that it's content that kept, for me, my passion for timepieces alive. Of course, there's times where it fluctuates. We're human, There's times where we're all into watches, talking about timepieces any and every time we get a chance. And then there's times where it's just like, I don't even Google search a watch, don't watch YouTube content, and that's just normal. But there's content like Hodinkee Talking Watches, which I'm excited to say that I'm glad they come out with a new series recently of Talking Watches. I know some of you guys out there know what I'm talking about. Talking Watches was something that kept the passion for timepieces alive for me. Even some of the episodes, I'll watch them 3-4 times, and it was enjoyable. So I'm, again, excited to say that Hodinkee has a new season of Talking Watches. So you guys can go check Hodinkee out and see the first episode, I believe, was a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. But anyways, that's one of the reasons why I'm so consistent and so passionate about bringing you guys this content, the street interviews, is because I understand what it does for the community. There's different types of content, like I said. There's the watch dealers interacting with the consumers, but that gets old. You know, there's other types of content. There's even, shout out to the watchmakers, there's content where watchmakers, they don't even say a word too much in their videos, but they get views where they do overhauls, and I love that type of content. If you love watching those content, I know that you're a real watch collector or watch enthusiast. But yes, there's different type of content out there. So for me, the content that I do, it's a little bit different, and that's why I enjoy doing it. I know that you guys are enjoying it, and I know it's making us a level of impact on the watch community. And it's my goal to over time evolve and grow my content so it doesn't get too stale. And like I said, I know it's keeping some of you guys out there passion to a certain level, and that's the ultimate goal for me. It's another thing too where I'm looking at my content not so much short term, I'm looking at it long term. I laugh to myself sometimes because I'm like, you know what, my videos at some point, let's say in 2080, it's gonna be looked back at to some people, or maybe groups, to view as historical data. People are going to be looking at it to say, okay, people in Miami at this time were wearing these specific watches. This was the trend. And I think that's important. So I'm not so small-minded to where I'm just thinking I'm just out here making these interviews, doing these videos, and there's not more to it. There's definitely going to be more to it. And I'm hoping that I continue to bring value, not just for collectors like you guys, where it's to keep the passion going, but also future generations who may love watches as well, so that they could see, you know, where collectors were right now in 2026, 2025, and so on. So yeah, lastly, I want to close and say that, you know, my channel, Watch Clyde, definitely got a little bit of traction in the past couple of months with these street interviews, and it's something that I view as a privilege to be a content creator, if that's the word. You know, sometimes when people say, oh, you make these videos, so what's the title should I give myself? But I would say I'm a creator because I do enjoy the process of creating, not just being out there trying to be the face of the channel. I'm also a creator. I love the editing and putting the video together so that it keeps your attention and you guys keep coming back to enjoy it. And yeah, I view it as a privilege. It's not something that I take for granted. I think the reason why I say this is because I view other content and I see what they're doing, and I'm like, these people, low effort, low IQ, and I think there needs to be more to it. You know, there's people out there, you know, YouTube and other platforms, Instagram, it's a free platform for people just to, if you have a mouth, a voice, you could say whatever you want. And I think to a degree, not everybody should be heard.
Damn.
And yeah, I just had to say that shit.
He ain't lying.
Not everybody needs to be heard, you know, and they need to realize that. But for me, some people might think, shit, you don't need to be heard too. But I think I want to bring more value as well. So like I mentioned from my first point or second point, it's like, yeah, we're showcasing watches. It might seem like showing off or flexing, but I want to bring value, whether it's watch knowledge or even outside knowledge. That's where I'm steering towards, asking people what they do for a living. I hate asking to some degree, because I think that's intrusive. I think it's a little bit icky to be like, what do you do for a living? But I think it's helpful for some people out there. and also to get one piece of advice from these collectors, because these are people, of course, of certain status, so they may have some sort of knowledge to convey that's helpful to some of you guys out there. So over time, my questions are going to get better. My interview style will get better. I'll do more sit downs where it gets a little more personal, and it's going to be, to bring value. I'm all about high effort, consistency, and that's how I am with everything, honestly. You guys may be like, damn, he's consistently putting out 2 videos per week. And that's just how I am. Once I commit to something, that's it. It's a wrap. I'm just going to do it. And that's just how I am with everything. But anyways, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Give the video a like. Let's get my videos up. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the average to 1,000 likes per video. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, share the videos, and stay tuned for the next video.